Hey, real estate rock stars, welcome to the whole enchilada of real estate investing, the only podcast that serves up the full feast of street smart strategies to build wealth and take control of your financial future. I'm Lou Brown, and I've been in the real estate game since 1976, so I've learned how to make the whole plate worth it. Each week, I'll be dishing out creative financing hacks and proven systems that help investors build multi-million-dollar businesses. No fluff, just the good stuff straight from the source. Ready to dig in and start making deals? Let's get to it. Hello today and welcome to another installment of the whole enchilada of real estate investing with Lou Brown. And today I have an amazing person, Mr. Paul Graham from Austin, Texas, and he is going to share with us some insight into how you can make your real estate more interesting for yourself as well as others, and also give you some insight into saving a fortune in taxes. Is that right, Paul?
It's the whole enchilada. We even got the sides and maybe a margarita or just water, depending on your preference.
Exactly. That sounds like a plan, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I've always been a serial entrepreneur, and really that's from the stem of helping other people. I tried to apply for a patent when I was younger and got in trouble in grade school selling keychains when really I was just helping people get what they wanted. Whenever I went to the grocery store, I just got keychains for them. I wasn't even making profit. And so through that, I've really seen how business owners, six, seven, eight, nine, even the 10-figure business owners I've met, there's just a different heart posture and there's a different intention on focusing on the dollars and the cents versus focusing on helping people that they serve, right? Either through their products or services or even just through the human connection, right? Maybe some people need some time off. Maybe they get a bonus day or bonus income. Those sort of things that really tie things together, which is really part of culture. And even with real estate as well, right? Like, how can then just not only four walls be transformative to someone's life or even someone's legacy? So, through that thought process, I've owned, operated, and sold a couple different companies, home services, SaaS, and also oil and gas asset advisory. I've taken all these experiences and I now work as a tax strategist. So, anyone who's high income or a business owner, helping them offset their taxes, building wealth but not having their identity be tied to their wealth is a really important thing for me. So, especially as I've lived a lot of different careers or had a lot of different experiences, it's really helping people on this idea of living a life full of more joy. And so I write about that through a newsletter I have called the Entrepreneur's Family Office that goes through different strategy type tips or how to grow your business or things like that. And then, yeah, I physically live in Austin, Texas, unless I'm on a plane. So enjoy helping people and traveling. Sometimes I can't wait to be home.
Yeah. Do you have a family?
I have myself, the Lord, and my parents.
Man.
They are middle 70s. They live just outside of Austin, Texas here. And it's just been so cool to see how, from moving from Colorado, at least where I grew up, for them to move to Texas about 3 years ago, they've just completely changed perspectives on going outside and walking or exploring things and truly environments, whether it be location or in some cases, like we'll talk about real estate, can radically transform how someone shows up, how they think, how they maybe enjoy life, or how they also may perceive the enjoyment of life. So I'm parenting my parents and invite them along into silly trips or, hey, how many miles did you get today? Kind of things. And they enjoy it. I'll actually see them tomorrow. We're gonna go for barbecue. So keeping it alive and fresh and fun.
Oh, that's beautiful, man. I love that. And really tying into the heart posture thing. I never heard that term before. I think that's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
What is your heart posture, guys? Have you thought about that? One of the things that us as certified affordable housing providers, what we do, helping deserving families end up with home ownership, regardless of credit or financial background. I even have a book. It's called Doing Good While Doing Well: How Real
Mm,
Estate Investors Provide a Service and Make a Difference. So I'm loving your heart posture thing. That's a
yeah.
that's a beautiful thing. and definitely something that everyone can make available in your own world, whether it's with your parents, whether it's with your children, whether it's with the community. You can
Hmm.
definitely make a difference there where you're at, no matter what you're doing. So great news with that. And wow, you with the serial entrepreneur thing, man, you've done some amazing things in your life.
It's been fun. Yeah. Certainly there's been moments or times or stressors, but yeah, really it's just that core why of wanting to help people. My belief goes further and farther than just my own ego. And I say that with utter confidence for the times in my life where I've had to deny myself or was forced to be humble or became humble, that focusing just on income or net worth or status or what have you has its kind of runway. And some people experience it sooner than others, regardless of what that amount is. I tend to see about at the eight-figure net worth level, people then try to be like, what's my purpose? I have enough, right? And then it's more the human being as opposed to the human doing. And so easier said than done to kind of make that switch. But ultimately, by doing that, I guess just to even share, I've seen that by focusing more on people, connecting people, helping people, supporting people, I've made more income, had more unique experiences, and have met more interesting, incredible people that I never thought I'd be able to. I have met a number of billionaires simply just from other people I've either helped, supported, or encouraged, or etc. And some of those rooms would have been very expensive to get into. Instead, it was just a, hey, do you want to come to this? Yes. You just never know. And that's, I think, the cool part. Could be scary, right? Not knowing, we love to know. But ultimately, I have this phrase I'll share. The most incredible, wonderful, and amazing experiences in my life have been unexpected. And so then who am I to know exactly how it's supposed to work? It's been great, both with real estate, with business, and with life.
I love keeping an open mind to the possibilities that God may deliver to you because at all times, in every way, He's hard at work and we don't even understand. We shouldn't try to understand either. We just go with the flow. So, always being open to that possibility is a great thing. Tell us what you're up to now as your serial entrepreneur self.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is really content, right? So podcasts like this, and whether it be YouTube or LinkedIn, just really sharing more about the behind the scenes. I was in Pittsburgh the other day for the NFL draft, and so was able to meet with a number of former athletes and different individuals around it. Most people don't get to be in that kind of room. And so sharing some things that I've learned from that, right? So part of that is really just education and just kind of thought leadership, but the other real piece is just really, again, helping people build their wealth, but not their identity to it. And truly, this idea of the best way to really build wealth is to remove the expectation you have for yourself or the judgment of others on your wealth, because then you wouldn't need to buy this certain thing or do this certain thing. You'd be able to save a heck of a lot more or invest it differently or even just have a different perspective. And so, really just sharing some of those thoughts. And one of my favorite, Lou, is this idea of what is enough for income, right? Or net worth. And it just really makes you think, like, what is enough? What do I really actually need? Not want or desire, but like need. And so that's the brand of the Investor's Guide to Joy. I co-authored a book with Kevin Harrington, the original shark from Shark Tank. That was amazing. Currently have another book in production for high income earners on tax strategy. And as I mentioned, just tactically actually implementing and working with high income earner and business owners really with their taxes. So again, that sort of education, information sharing behind the scenes is the main focus. And then as people kind of relate or connect with me, if they need some of the services that I can help offer, amazing. Or resources that I can provide, amazing. That is what I'm focused on and really help to serve.
What is your advice to high income earners? What tax advice do you have for them?
Yeah, it's more perspective than anything because the actual specific advice depends on the individual, right? Risk tolerance, working with a CPA in terms of the implementation, all these different factors. But short and sweet, what I'll actually share is really just my journey, and that was I was a high income W-2 earner, also serial business owner, as I mentioned. And so being able to write off certain things as a business owner and then also do tax strategy on the high income side with a corporate employment, allowed me to then buy a couple real estate properties, do cost segregation studies on them, do depreciation, different losses, either active or passive. I've also invested in oil and gas. I've also invested in film credits. And from a span of 18 months, I went from a cute little condo to three single family homes plus land next to them and over 10,000 square feet of property. And that then those properties are effectively short-term rentals. And so through short-term rentals, I can offset different taxes, basically to make it short and sweet. Now, I share that to say that it's been great over the past couple of years. But man, it is not my ideal type of investment and strategy, right? And so my point is again, this idea of investing for joy or being aware of your joy. Like I do love serving people, helping people. Like I have a miniature golf course at one of the properties. I'm about to put a cowboy pool and a giant chess set at one of the other ones. Like how cool. The big thing is just to say that that's not like my ideal type of investment because there's a lot of like nuance or headache around it. So I've then had to hire property managers, right? And so my point is that there are different ways to strategically offset taxes or prepare for tax season or grow the value of your company. But it's really the idea of what are you optimizing for, both in terms of lifestyle, but also then future, right? If you're trying to go from a 1 million to a $10 million net worth, you're going to invest and you're going to do different type of tax strategy than if you're making $200,000 and you're looking to just save 10%, right? And then you go to Disney World.
Yeah.
Those are going to be different types of thought processes. But by first knowing what you're optimizing for, what your risk tolerance are, and kind of like truly like your ideal day, that really can then help how you're going to do some of these things and then really build a plan around it. So that's something that like I'm the best on of like taking finance, investment, and then also tax, really combining them together and then seeing what the best path forward is from a wealth standpoint. And that's simply because of my experience, right? Like I have invested in the things that I have, right? I have grown and scaled and exited businesses. And therefore, just that experience that I directly have, or people that I know that can help us figure out what we're trying to do, especially if you're trying to grow a real estate portfolio or a business, like how do you orchestrate your taxes so that way you can buy more real estate or grow the bigger company or things like that. Sometimes it's not always pay $0 in taxes. Sometimes you actually do want to show profit so that you can get certain loans. That's again kind of my story, what I've been through, one of my experiences, and then for others as well to have some of those perspectives, to have a good understanding and confidence of
Yeah.
why they're doing and what they're doing. Otherwise, taxes just tends to be a oops, okay, let's figure it out sort of thing, right? It's kind of if you've got your phone in the house when you're driving in the car, you're like, oops, yeah, I should probably get that. You probably should. You probably should.
With your heart positioned investing, I really
Yeah.
love what you're saying is that a lot of folks that join me to become certified affordable housing providers, they do that because they love the program called Never Pay Rent Again, the path to home ownership, right? So the idea is that we take renters into home ownership. And I
Mm,
love the thought pattern around, hey, you can make a lot of money and you can help people too. You can be in a position, whatever it is, whatever brings you joy, as you said,
mm,
Disney World can bring you joy. Also, doing for others can bring you joy, and having enough money to be able to have the position to be able to
mhm,
help others is also a great joy. One of the things that I've loved is the idea of being able to help with down payment assistance and
mhm.
matching funds
Yep.
and aligning with foundations to say, hey, there's another thing we can do for people. Most people, over 100 million people, cannot are not in a home right now, and they're not enjoying home ownership because they're boxed out. The banker has a box and you don't fit in it. Basically, only about 20% of the population fits in the banker's box. And then there's all this unserved and underserved folks out there that
Yeah.
really are in a position to not be able to win. And so I love the combination of the heart base plus the strategy of taxes, right?
Mhm.
Why waste the taxes? Why spend the taxes when you can control it, like in a foundation, for example, and
Mhm.
be able to make your own path for people and have joy by doing that very thing? So, love that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's exciting and it's definitely a muscle to not maybe focus on the dollars and cents. And certainly there's times where it's, hey, I need to focus on the dollars and cents. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to pay bills. The one thing, at least I've found, is that, at least for me as a man of faith, the idea of the Lord will provide everything I need. And so that's been humility at times to be like, do I really need the maybe big house or this brand new car or these kind of things, right? And really evaluating again, like my heart to be like, what do I actually need? What do I actually like? And who am I in that process? And then also really just how I show up and why I'm wanting to help someone. Is it just to make a dollar or is it because it actually helps them? And the other thing that comes to mind from what you shared is really being able to be open to different possibilities. Hey, we have this down payment assistance program. Well, I couldn't do that. Okay. Maybe. What's it like? Let me tell you about it, right? There's different opportunities to have that emotional or physical discovery to see if things are possible. Even the sign behind me, right? What if it all works out? And so really I then thinking to talk to the person who's maybe on the fence or is unsure if it is going to work out or how it's going to be or all these things. A locomotive can go up a hill because of the momentum that it builds. And so the two things you can control are attitude and action. And so being able to see how it's possible instead of knowing, our minds and our brains and our control can really just keep us stuck. So that ability to really just be curious and explore. And that's again the same thing of how we would connect with humans too, right? Getting to know someone on a deeper level and again being curious about how it's possible for home ownership. The other side of the coin is maybe someone doesn't need to own a home because maybe in the city owning a home is 30 minutes away or an hour and a half away, and then they're driving too much and they're doing all these things, and then their life may not be
It's
really
joyful.
joyful. Yeah, they're just home alone, but they own a home. And so that's another thing that I've seen and something I actually experienced here in Austin where I bought a house. It wasn't that far from the city, but I ended up renting the house out completely and then moving closer to the city and was able to offset that rent from the investment that I had because it's an investment property. I was also able to write off on my taxes and things like that. So my point is there are ways to really stack and really transcend wealth, lifestyle, and then also taxes too. Again, the idea of just because someone else has something doesn't mean that you need it too, right? Keeping up with the Joneses is the most expensive thing that you could ever really have.
That's
And
right.
maybe you don't need something that you think you do need, right? A home is still a home, whether you own it or not.
People have proven that you can live in an RV, right?
That is
For
true.
years and years at a time. So we just don't need that much space and we don't need that much stuff, really.
Oh yeah.
So it's quite amazing when you break it down. I say that bigger houses are nothing more than duplicated houses within a house. There's a lot of duplication inside of bigger houses that, depending on the size of your family, you may not need, right? So, what's your biggest tax tip for folks to be able to take away today and put into action?
I think the biggest thing is recognizing there's a difference between active and passive income and also being able to offset those differently. And why I say that is because sometimes people invest in, say, real estate and take passive losses, but then try to offset their corporate salaries. Short answer is that doesn't work. So you need passive losses to offset passive income and active losses to offset active income. So active losses would be things like oil and gas, film credits, if you did have short-term rentals, and or if you're like just focused in real estate, there's real estate professional status and things like that. So there's different nuances and happy to walk through that with someone. But that's a big thing that I found just from an education standpoint. And then in terms of an implementation standpoint, the biggest thing I found was really finding ways to stack the deck, if you will. So, meaning to say, from the condo I had, I was renting out the other room. That was able to reduce my expenses. I then took that sort of savings and started to build that up. I then continued to do that and was able to buy a house here in Austin. I then rented out those rooms. I then was able to do the same thing. And then from that saving, I was able to buy another property. And so my point is just if you are going towards home ownership, but also investment creation, right? So whether someone is trying to put their family in a house or they're trying to buy real estate to build wealth, the big thing is just reduce your expenses very much, right? Living expenses is a big expense. So I've seen people even do rent by or go to a room, right? Just renting a room or going to a property that's a pad split type property, really reducing their expenses for a couple months or maybe a year, and then really giving them that ability to really have a jump trajectory into the next level. That's been a huge thing that I've seen for myself that ultimately can be a difficult decision, but it's also a simple one. It may not be easy, but it is simple. And then as you're growing your net worth in different ways, then continuously find ways of like how to grow it effectively and not just, yeah, just not really have a plan, right? Or not working with someone who's like been there, done that is a huge thing. So that's what I would say from like an education thought process piece, right? And then also the hyper tactical as well of how I was able to build a lot of my passive wealth beyond just investing in some of the other things I shared, but is really through real estate and ensuring that it is in alignment. There's so much more, yeah, I could say on the real estate investing thing of making sure the house can also be rented out different ways or, do different things or have different streams of incomes or all these things probably for another show. But needless to say, at least getting on stage kind of one and two and getting on base and then looking to see how to expand is the next big thing. But one word of caution that I will absolutely say from a tax sort of or investment standpoint is my belief is your house is not an investment. The house that you live in is not an investment. Your personal primary residence is not an investment. Traditionally, because people don't treat it as that, they don't look at the expenses that they put in to buy the property. And then when they sell it, looking at the expenses that it took to sell the property. Sure, it might have gone up, but so did inflation and all these other things. Statistically, homes appreciate about 3% a year. And so that is not an investment. That sort of
It
piece.
depends on where you are, right?
Yeah, I
Some
mean,
places, location, it can go up a lot more than 3%, but other places
totally.
can actually lose money too.
Sure. So, but that's then the thought. I've been in Austin. Some of the houses I had appreciated 30% over 2 years, right? But then I also should have sold one of those properties, right? Again, if I was treating it as an investment, I would then also sell it. So that's just the other things to say, like treat your home as basically an investment so that you have that awareness and that mindset. That's tough to do when you're raising a family and doing all these things by all means. But again, just having that conversation with yourself. Okay, this is going to be an irrational emotional purchase. Therefore, I need to treat it as such, but I need to be aware of the numbers. Or this is a very logical person or investment, right? And then really leaning into that. So the corner lot house could be a good investment. It may not be, right? So those type of things really can just change someone's wealth, not only for yourself, but also the legacy of your family as well. So keeping those things in mind, being aware can also then help other investments and just again, the life you live. And like we talked about, even do you need some of those things? Do you need that bigger house or these sort of aspects, right? That again can also change things. Maybe putting less down, but investing differently. So that way you have more between it. A bunch of different tactical things, but again, a very personal belief of mine of your house is not a investment.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So when somebody, just my final question for you
Yeah.
is if somebody's just getting started and Paul goes back to Paul's beginning, right? And Paul says, what would I have done differently if I were a brand new investor now? I wanted to invest in real estate. What would you have done differently?
It's painful because I can remember these things, right? And I say it and start it with that to help someone who maybe doesn't believe the stove is hot. So two things come to mind. One is bookkeeping. So having an understanding of your cash flow, your reserves, all financial things. If you don't have that, you're floating on ego and your ego doesn't pay the bills. You also can't invest based on your ego. You can, but you also tend to lose money. And then the other thing is I'm really taking action when you can. So there's a period of time in 2022 and 2023 where I was like deciding between going back to a corporate role or staying kind of business owner. And I got a cash out refi on one of my properties. And I was like, oh, it'll be fine. I'll do this and this, all these things. Turns out I ended up living off that income as opposed to investing in that income.
Right.
Me, if I was able to have a different perspective, again, reduce ego, take better action, things like that, cash out refi, I would have reinvested in that property to then really grow and expand that. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've realized is real estate, at least for me, and for those that I know that are 6, 7, 8 figure earners who also have real estate, they're using real estate as more of a wealth preservation and really wealth differentiator than necessarily a cash flow tool to retire or to, more importantly, leave their corporate job, right? And the best, easiest way to really have cash flow is really through business, right? I could say, hey, I maybe have a, I don't know, podcast service, or I have this marketing service, or something like that. It's $1,500 a month, right? Like, boom, $1,500 a month. You doing that with real estate, $1,500 a month can sometimes be tough to buy the not only the property and then rent it out. It's a long game, and I didn't realize how long of a
Mm.
game it was. But more importantly, with short-term rentals, there's more cash flow. The issue, though, is that I was like living off some of that income. That then means that I wasn't able to reinvest. And so when it came time for different issues or different things that came up to the property, like the reserves maybe weren't as ready, or
Weren't there.
I wasn't as financially able to, and then the property hurt, which then hurt the income, which then hurt my cash flow, which then hurt lifestyle and living. And so it's
Yeah,
truly this cyclical type piece that
that's
no one really
interesting.
knows until they have it.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I looked at is exactly the same thing, where in real estate, one of the things you're building is the ideal investment, right? And you're getting leverage and you're getting equity buildup and appreciation. And one of the great things of what we do is we take what a traditional landlord makes and we add 25 profit centers above
Mm,
that so that the cash flow can be there in real
totally.
estate as opposed to exactly what you said, that, hey, a water heater goes out or a roof has to be replaced and suddenly your cash flow's gone for several years on that property. So you do have to pay attention to the expenses on the property and pay attention to what your long-term objective is on the property. Are you just simply building enough wealth to pay for a college education when one of your kids gets to 18 years old, or are you looking at this from a different point of view? Are you going to live off of this, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
different perspectives, but I love real estate, and I think it's one of the most forgiving things on the planet for the average person. You can make a lot of mistakes in real estate and still succeed, but you do have to have the right education, plan in advance, and that's one of the reasons that we do the whole enchilada of real estate investing podcast. And Paul, thank you so much for being a guest today. And thank you for sharing the insights that you have. I think you've given some people some very nice perspectives on what their future can look like. And we'll
Sure.
look forward to seeing you soon.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Lou. Really enjoyed this morning.
Yeah, baby. Thank you. Take care.
You too.
Thanks for tuning in to the whole enchilada of real estate investing. I hope you're feeling ready to take your investing game to the next level. If you're serious about building wealth, you won't want to miss the Millionaire Jumpstart. It's a 3-day live event that's perfect for any level of investor. Whether you're just getting started or you're looking to scale, this can be one of the final steps of making real wealth happen. So, what are you waiting for? Enroll now at millionairejumpstart.com and get ready to make big moves in your real estate journey. I'm Lou Brown. Until next time, keep hustling, and remember, it's not about how much you make, it's about how smart you play the game.